What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you with our final coverage of the NFL Draft. You guys should be seeing this on Monday or something like that. I haven't decided when I'm going to put this up, but what we're doing here is we're going to go through the quarterbacks, running backs, and pass catchers, and we're basically going to play Matchmaker. We're going to talk about each prospect and each team that needs a certain position group, and we're going to talk about the ideal fit based on their scheme, based on what they already currently have on that team and the weapons around them and stuff like that. So what we're going to be doing today is what we're going to call quarterback matchmaker. We're going to go over the quarterback needy teams, the quarterback prospects in this draft, and we're basically just going to pair them together and hopefully that's what actually happens on draft day. But what we're basically doing is talking about their ideal fit.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you'll actually recall this is one of the first ever series we've actually done on the channel. This is easily one of my favorite videos of the offseason because it's basically playing the GM. It's basically saying, you know what? This is a team. They need this position based off of scheme, based off potential fit, based off of what these quarterbacks in this video potentially will represent. How do they fit in? Like, are they a match made in heaven? Do they not go together? We'll kind of outline all those together on what these teams are looking for and why each prospect that we pick is the ideal fit for these scenarios. So yeah, I'm pumped up, Corey.
Yep. All right. So before we hit the intro, I just want to encourage you guys to go down right now and like the video, comment anything down below. All helps us the same, and subscribe to the channel. If you are new, hit the bell icon so you're notified anytime we post videos. So we're going to hit the intro and then we're going to get right into this. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're talking about the quarterback needy team. So on the screen right now, you should see the teams that we have deemed to be in need of a quarterback or in the quarterback market this coming up NFL draft, which should be about a couple days away from when you're seeing this. Basically, what we're going to be doing is that me and Danny don't actually know who the other person picked. We did this ahead of time, and I picked like prospects to certain teams. He picked prospects to certain teams, and we're finding this out live. So we're basically going to defend our own arguments kind of thing. But we are going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars since they have the first overall pick. They're obviously in need of a quarterback. And not that this is necessarily a dream landing spot, but this is where he's going. So we got to basically just talk about it. Yeah, exactly. Trevor Lawrence is going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, whether it's his dream fit or not. So we're just going to talk about the fit within that offense because it's going to happen. I tweeted this out a couple of days ago, basically talking about how Urban Meyer likes to run his offense. In 2018, the last time he had like a good passer at the college level in his last season at Ohio State, Dwayne Haskins recorded 444 of his 583 dropbacks from 11 personnel, so 3 wide receivers, and only 6 dropbacks that were not from shotgun, only 21 dropbacks from 12 personnel, which was 2 tight ends. So basically, and this matches what the Jaguars have done this offseason, right? They brought in Marvin Jones as that third receiver to pair with DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault, and they were also in on Kenny Golladay, according to reports, which likely indicates that Urban Meyer is likely to run a three wide receiver type of offense in the NFL, and that's a very common offense to run. So this isn't any like groundbreaking news. Yeah. It's what Sean McVay runs. It's what a lot of those Cowboys runs. The Bucs run it too. Like it's very common. So that's kind of the offense that we're looking for with Trevor Lawrence, and obviously he has DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, and Marvin Jones already as that 3 wide receiver set. They'll probably add another wide receiver at some point in the draft. And then he has James Robinson in the backfield as far as weapons are concerned.
Yeah, no, again, I have the exact same spot because, quite simply, we don't have to elaborate on this potentially happening because they basically already have all the Trevor Lawrence jerseys basically being shipped out, ready to order, everything like that, because this is going to happen. This was the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes all year for a reason. And guess what? The Jaguars picked first overall. They're not going to go against that just because, I don't know, people want to speculate, whatever. Trevor Lawrence is the ideal quarterback prospect for this team. You're mentioning a guy with Andrew Luck type potential, Andrew Luck type star appeal around him. He is the best quarterback prospect, in my opinion, since Andrew Luck. Now, you mentioned it, the physical attributes that he has, 6'6", 225 pounds with a rocket arm. He's got the requisite athleticism. He's pairing with Urban Meyer, who we've seen really run a sustainable, efficient system at the collegiate level. We still haven't really seen it at the NFL level, but it's kind of similar to what we saw with Trevor Lawrence in college. A lot of Trevor Lawrence's success was getting the ball out in space, getting it to playmakers in space. I believe 27.5% of his passes this year were off of screens, RPO type plays. And if you actually look at Urban Meyer's career with the Ohio State Buckeyes, that was one of the main concerns of Ohio State quarterbacks translating to the NFL. Oh, well, they weren't asked to run a lot of pro style type stuff. They're running a lot of plays in space, getting plays to Paris Campbell and Terry McLaurin, for example, when Dwayne Haskins was coming out. This is going to be a good transition for Trevor Lawrence because, quite simply, Urban Meyer is going to see the strengths of Trevor Lawrence at the collegiate level and going to really apply that to how he runs this NFL system, especially year one, because it's going to be a transition for both of them in facing NFL competition. So I think it is a fit because, again, they're both new to the NFL. They're both strong in certain aspects of both play calling and producing. And it's just kind of a mesh point. I think it was meant to be rather than the Jets actually, not fumbling the bag on the first overall pick. So I do like the fit. I do like, in theory, what they're going to be able to run with Lawrence and with Urban.
Yeah, and I think when you look at their offensive line, it's very similar to Clemson's offensive line, in my opinion, because the offensive line has talent in Jacksonville, but it's never really been like a sustainable, like dominant offensive line, despite having some high-priced players and some high-drafted players as well. So honestly, they just need to play better. Hopefully, Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence's presence, because quarterbacks definitely do affect the offensive line, are able to kind of up the ante of the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line. Maybe they add a piece or two with the 25th pick or early in the second round or something like that. The real question for Trevor Lawrence and his sustainable success, it's been the question all along for me, I know it has been for you, is the coaching staff, right? We have Urban Meyer, who has never coached in the NFL. His offensive staff consists of Brian Schottenheimer, who basically took the chef's knife right out of Russell Wilson's hands last year, and Darrell Bevell, who have not been the most innovative offensive coordinators, to say the least. So can these guys create a non-boring new school offense that Trevor Lawrence can succeed in? I would say the Lions and Seahawks offenses last year left a lot to be desired for what Lawrence's future prospects under these two guys are going to be. But with Darrell Bevell, at least, he has definitely had a good run of sustainable, great offense in Seattle prior to his dismissal in 2018. He was the guy who orchestrated the offense of the teams that were basically complementing the Legion of Boom defense. So you obviously don't have that kind of defense in Jacksonville. You need to get more creative and more centered around the talents of your quarterback as an offensive play caller. And that's the big question, right? Because we don't know what Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer can bring to what Trevor Lawrence already does. So that's really the only thing that it hinges on as a fit. Other than that, it should be a good fit from a personnel standpoint. You have a great deep threat. You have a good gadget guy with Laviska Shenault, and you have a solid running back with James Robinson. So overall, it's a great fit for Trevor Lawrence. I think we can move on to the New York Jets, who is the second QB needy team on our list. And I believe we both have the same prospect going to this team as well. Because again, this is going to happen. Zach Wilson, quarterback from BYU, is going to be a New York Jet. And I actually like this situation better than Jacksonville for Zach Wilson.
It's fair. I mean, again, you mentioned this is all but likely to happen. As likely as it is that Trevor Lawrence is going to be the first overall pick. Well, according to OddsShark, Zach Wilson actually has minus 2,000 odds to be the second overall pick, which is just crazy to think about how going into the season, nobody was talking about Zach Wilson. Now he's the consensus second overall pick for really the last 3-4 months since the season ended. I mean, you're mentioning it. Wilson, according to PF, was actually their highest graded efficient passing quarterback. He was third in big time throws and big time throw percentage this year. And with the hiring of Mike LaFleur, I just think that fits what he does well beautifully. I mean, think of like an Aaron Rodgers type quarterback, a schoolyard type quarterback that can do a lot on the move, that can give you really plays out of nowhere. Mike's brother, Matt, actually has Rodgers in his back pocket. Let's get Mike a quarterback with that type of schoolyard type mentality to bring to an offense that quite literally doesn't have an identity right now. Give them a quarterback that can really make more with less, as we've seen multiple times throughout the career of Aaron Rodgers. We mentioned Aaron Rodgers needed a receiver for the past 3 years, and he's still being able to put up the numbers that he has been despite having just Devontae Adams in his receiving core. It's kind of a similar situation right now with what we see with the Jets. They don't really have much established aside from a potential high upside signing with Corey Davis. I mean, Jamison Crowder, Braxton Berrios, They don't have much in that receiving core. Denzel Mims, giving them a playmaker like Zach Wilson, who we saw at BYU do a lot more with less. BYU does not have remotely the type of playmakers that an Alabama, an Ohio State, a Clemson has. And yet Zach Wilson has basically had one of the most efficient quarterback seasons we have ever seen. So I think, again, you mentioned the fit may be even better than the one we see in Jacksonville with Lawrence. I think Zach Wilson as a Jet, you could definitely see step into the NFL right away and just feel comfortable being able to do what he does, being able to extend plays, being able to play on the run. I'm excited to see it, and I'm sure you are as well, as being your quarterback 2 overall in this class from your grading system.
Yeah. And I think when you look at Mike LaFleur specifically, great coaching to me really boils down to making the pieces around you better, whether you're dealing with a bad situation, making it like better, or if you have a great situation and you make it elite, right? So yeah, Mike LaFleur is the new OC there. And for those of you that don't know, Mike LaFleur previously served as the passing game coordinator in San Francisco from 2017 to 2020. So he actually did call passing plays. Like a lot of people would just assume that Kyle Shanahan was the full-time play caller. He called passing plays. And the San Francisco 49ers ranked number 12 in passing yards and 13 in net yards per attempt last year with whoever played quarterback for them. They had like the ghost of Jimmy Garoppolo with a bunch of ankle injuries. They had Nick Mullins starting games. They had CJ Beathard for a game, I believe. So the fact that he was able to rank top 15 in passing offense with that kind of situation, not to mention you had George Kittle injured, you had Deebo Samuel injured. That is a really, really impressive stat to me. And 13th in passing yards and 3rd in net yards per attempt in 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, you made something out of what I would say, and you would probably say is like a slightly above average quarterback with Jimmy Garoppolo and then a bunch of backups. And
like a fringe top 20 type quarterback, in my opinion, Jimmy Garoppolo. That's probably around what he is. Yeah,
and then when you look at Zach Wilson and how he actually schematically fits into the offense, I tweeted this out the other day, but Zach Wilson ranked number 1 in this class on play action. He recorded a 156.1 quarterback rating, which is near perfect, with a 17-0 touchdown to INT ratio. And he ranked number 3 in this class in passer rating on bootleg plays. So Mike LaFleur's passing offense ranks top 10 in both play action and bootleg dropbacks since 2019. And again, this is with Jimmy Garoppolo, who is not necessarily the most mobile quarterback in the league. So And again, also, this is also despite ranking 16th in pass attempts, total pass attempt, this past year with a collection of random quarterbacks, and ranking 29th in total pass attempts in 2019. So in terms of total dropbacks with play action and bootleg passing, you were a low passing volume offense still ranking that highly in those areas. So basically, to sum up, what Wilson does well, Mike LaFleur's play calling tendencies match, which basically makes this a great match as a play caller to quarterback connection.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Again, perfect fit. Yeah, with that being said, let's get off Wilson and let's actually go to the San Francisco 49ers. And it's clear as day. They traded up to 3rd overall. They are going to be selecting their replacement for Jimmy Garoppolo. And to be honest, in terms of a quarterback nest, a thing that we've mentioned multiple times on the channel before, none really get truly better than what San Francisco currently offers. I mean, you got the requisite playmakers on the outside. You got Kyle Shanahan calling plays, and you got a ready-made defense ready to support you. Man, I do not believe, I can't buy into the fact that they traded all this capital, all 3 first-round picks that they did for Mac Jones. The person that I would take at number 3 overall is the person I'm going to match them in this matchmaker, and that's going to be Justin Fields, quarterback from Ohio State. In my opinion, he is the second best quarterback in the class. I mean, he was born to play as a 49er playing for Kyle Shanahan. And I understand the uncertainty around the selection, but just take the best overall players available. You mentioned desirable traits in the quarterback position. Justin Fields just so happens to be a 4'4" athlete with a rocket arm and 2 years of elite production in the Big Ten. You pair that up with what we've seen with Kyle Shanahan's systems. Again, people want to point out the fact that, Kyle Shanahan has had these statue quarterbacks, pocket quarterbacks. Why would he want Justin Fields, who's more of an athletic playmaking type, over Mac Jones, who kind of is similar to what Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins for him in the recent years? Well, let's just kind of take it back a step. And remember the last time that Kyle Shanahan had a guy of this elite athleticism, elite out of structure type play, just so happened to be the Rookie of the Year and on trajectory to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL for the next 10 years prior to a knee injury derailing his career. Yes, I'm talking about Robert Griffin III. Justin Fields is a much more mechanically advanced passer than RG3 ever was. And this guy broke records for the Redskins under Kyle Shanahan's tutelage in his rookie season. I just see no way if Justin Fields were to land as a San Francisco 49er that he could possibly bust. Not only bust, I don't see a way that he could be regarded as quite simply less than a top 10 quarterback. And if we're talking about a fantasy perspective, we're talking about a guy with the movement skills and the big arm to be a perennial top 8 type quarterback option in this offense. So he's going to be my match. He is going to be my match. And I've said it multiple times. If he lands with the San Francisco 49ers, I don't care about Trevor Lawrence. I'm taking him number 1 overall in my rookie drafts. He's that talented. This is that good of a situation.
Yeah, and you mentioned that he has statue quarterbacks or whatever. How many Super Bowls has he lost with statue quarterbacks? He lost one to Tom Brady, but he lost the other one to Patrick Mahomes on an out-of-structure play downfield to Tyreek Hill when he had a Jimmy Garoppolo who couldn't hit a deep pass to save that Super Bowl to Emmanuel Sanders. So I think the fact that he has had statue quarterbacks is the opposite reason why he would go for like a more out-of-structure guy. And everything I just said for Zach Wilson and the 49ers scheme that they're going to run in New York applies to Justin Fields as well. He couldn't run play action and bootlegs at the rate that Zach Wilson ran it at BYU, but he was very successful when he did do it. He recorded the second highest quarterback rating in the class with 154 and a 7-0 touchdown to interception ratio. And the biggest part of what Kyle Shanahan does on offense is the run game, right? Like that's what makes him Kyle Shanahan. And Fields gives that offense a dynamic that they have not had with an elite rushing quarterback, right? Because This is a guy, as you mentioned, 4.4 speed, can run the ball like a Cam Newton, like a Kyler Murray, probably not like a Lamar Jackson, but like just a touch below that. And Kyle Shanahan could use Justin Fields as a rushing threat and run RPOs and read option plays to make that 49ers rushing attack even more dangerous to stop on the ground, because it already is pretty much unstoppable on the ground. We saw Raheem Mostert go for like 300 yards against Green Bay in the NFC Championship a couple of years ago. Just add a rushing threat at the quarterback position to that situation and just be absolutely absurd to stop.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned multiple times this offseason, oh, please, San Francisco, trade for Deshaun Watson. If there's one quarterback in the class that kind of has that type of game to him, and that's going to be Justin Fields, being able to stretch the field, being able to make plays out of structure. You mentioned 59.4% deep ball accuracy this season and instantly provides his offense with 2 elements that neither Mac Jones or Jimmy Garoppolo have. And that is the big play down the field arm ability that he has and the elite rushing aspect that he brings. If I'm the 49ers, there is no shot I'm even entertaining any possibility this guy is not wearing my uniform on Sundays. Period.
Yep. And for clarity's sake, let's just point out the fact that Trey Lance to the 49ers has gained a lot of steam in the past couple of days. And it sounds like, honestly, it's a toss-up between all 3 of these guys at this point. At one point, we thought, yep, it's Mac Jones. Another point, it was like, yep, it's Justin Fields. And now it's like, yep, it's Trey Lance. So to me, it's a toss-up between all 3 of these guys. We'll see which way they go. But let's talk about the next team that we have on the list, and that's the Denver Broncos. I mean, they are quarterback needy because they have a very unproven and a guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy in Drew Lock. Which direction did you have them going?
Well, the last Konami code quarterback available, I have them going Trey Lance. I've mentioned multiple times in our mock draft videos, out of the top 4 quarterbacks, he's probably, in my opinion, on the surface, he would be, in theory, going the lowest out of the Konami code type quarterbacks and Trevor Lawrence. Pair him up with Denver. I'm talking about a fit potentially with Pat Shurmur, who's getting the most talented quarterback he's ever worked with from a size and trait standpoint. I mean, when you're talking about Trey Lance, he generates the requisite velocity to thread needles with ease and is still able to really deliver the ball in the breadbasket when he's asked to throw the ball down the field. His 2019 season is easily one of the most efficient we've seen in this entire class, between his ridiculous touchdown to interception ratio, his high yards per attempt, quarterback rating, and his real ability, uncanny ability to avoid sacks. He has the claim to be the second most efficient quarterback in this class. We mentioned how efficient Zach Wilson's year was this year. Trey Lance and Mac Jones are honestly fighting for second from an efficiency standpoint, because that is how good Trey Lance's 2019 season was. And the Broncos have lacked elite efficiency at the quarterback position really since 2013, when Peyton Manning had his record-breaking season. We saw, again, what Pat Shurmur was able to do with a young, talented, mobile quarterback in 2019 with Daniel Jones, who just so happened to have 26 total touchdowns and 3,300 yards from scrimmage in 13 games started that season. Imagine Lance, a souped-up version of Daniel Jones with Pat Shurmur. You combine that elite arm talent that I mentioned with elite rushing skills. Nearly 1,200 rushing yards, 14 rushing touchdowns, and 6.9 yards per carry at the collegiate level in the 16 game split this year. We mentioned the quarterback nest with the San Francisco 49ers. Let's not take anything away from how good that group is with Denver. You got Jerry Jeudy, you got Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, KJ Hamler, an above-average offensive line, a defense that can really support this quarterback. He can land in this situation and immediately make them a contender in the AFC, in my opinion, because that is how playoff ready this roster is. I would be stoked. If Trey Lance landed on the Denver Broncos, I would have a hard time not ranking him in the top 3 quarterbacks in my dynasty rankings, in all honesty.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I actually have a different quarterback going to Denver.
Really?
So I'm going to talk about that right now. So the quarterback that I match made to Denver was Mac Jones. And I'm thinking if San Francisco doesn't pick Mac Jones, and a lot of people are doing this for some reason, I've seen they're like, oh yeah, San Francisco isn't picking Mac Jones, and then they just drop him to the 20s in the draft. I don't think he's going to fall that far if San Francisco doesn't pick him. I think he's going to go in the top 10 picks, in the top 15 picks. Initially, that we heard that Carolina was quote unquote like the floor for what Mac Jones brings to the table from guys like Mel Kiper and stuff. So I seriously think now that the Panthers have Sam Darnold, that makes Denver Mac Jones's floor. And Jones kind of resembles the quarterback that Pat Shurmur has had success with when I'm talking like wins and stuff, which the last time he had that was Case Keenum in 2017, right? He played smart. He was like a point guard, get the ball to Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen and Kyle Rudolph that year, get the ball to the bevy of playmakers that you already mentioned the Broncos do have. Let him and Locke battle it out in camp and may the best man win. I think Mac Jones is a sneaky, really good fit for Denver's offense. And the reason that they're not going to pick Trey Lance, in my opinion, is because someone's coming up to get him ahead of Denver.
By the way, I mentioned Kirk Cousins, but yeah, you're right. That was 2007, a year before he came. So good on you for that. And I can see it. Like, if a team were to jump Denver, I think at first they would be like, oh, well, crap, like we wanted Trey Lance, but then they'll realize, okay, you know what, we're fine with Mac Jones. I see it. I want Trey Lance to be a Bronco. Please just let it happen. I just want to see Pat Shurmur work with a guy of the whole package that Trey Lance brings, because he had a little bit of the rushing with what Daniel Jones was. Again, Daniel Jones doesn't have nearly the elite arm talent that Trey Lance has, but we still saw him have 2 touchdowns per game, 3,300 yards. But yeah, transitioning from Mac Jones, if they're looking for more of a distributive type option to get those playmakers the ball in space, Mac Jones showed this year. I mentioned Trey Lance and Zach Wilson as having uber efficient years. Well, Mac Jones was the third place finisher in the Heisman this year?
Right.
41 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, had a better statistical season than what we saw from Tua Tagovailoa in 2018, 2019. He's a very solid prospect in his own right. So I definitely agree that this would be a fine spot for him. But transitioning to the next team, and that's the New England Patriots, this is the Mac Jones spot that I have. And I know it's cliche. Everybody's saying it. Oh, Bill Belichick wants his next Tom Brady. Mac Jones has that pocket type of movement ability. Smart guy, distributive guy. Look, I get it, but I'm still buying this fit. Mac Jones led the nation with over a 20. Actually, he was second in the nation to Trevor Lawrence. I mentioned that 27% RPO/screen play percentage. 22% of Mac Jones's total 2020 attempts came from RPO/read screen type situations in Steve Sarkisian's offense, and he was actually second in play action passing rate. For reference, the Patriots shows that they are adept in game planning in that regard in 2020, as 57 of their total 440 passing attempts actually came from an RPO/read option setting, which for reference in terms of proportion, they had the 7th most RPO passes in the NFL and the 13th highest play action rate, despite having the second least total passing attempts in the league. their total passing attempt to RPO selection was a 13% clip, which was actually the 4th highest in the NFL. So Bill Belichick saw what his offense was able to adapt, and made them a very RPO play action heavy type team. Enter Mac Jones, who is quite literally the most, we'll say, actually him and Lawrence, but the most reliant RPO quarterback in this class. I just think that's a match made in heaven. And in bringing in a guy like Mac Jones, somebody comparable, as I mentioned, in terms of play style to what Bill Belichick has really worked with in the last 19 years prior to the signing of Cam Newton, will really allow the offense to be in a state of comfort. And Mac Jones can be that point guard, can deliver the ball to those 2 tight ends, deliver the ball to Nelson Aguilar, maybe for a second round receiver. They got options to really let Mac Jones just run his rhythm, run his offense, and not really have to worry about having that Superman type complex that we've seen with Cam Newton even in 2020.
Right. So I'm going to play devil's advocate because, as you could probably guess, I have Trey Lance going to the New England Patriots. And everyone pegs this as the Mac Jones spot for obvious reasons. You just laid them out. But if you think of Brady and the Patriots like a bad breakup, Bill Belichick went out and got him the polar opposite of Tom Brady, which was a mobile quarterback like Cam Newton instead of another pocket passer. So there are rumors swirling like crazy about the New England Patriots trying to trade up. I think it's true, personally. I think they're going to get up. I think they're going to make a move to either 4 with Atlanta, 6 with Miami, 7 with Detroit, or 8 with Carolina, and come up and go get Trey Lance ahead of the Denver Broncos and get a guy who can sit and learn behind Cam Newton. And you don't have to change that offense at all, right? Because they're the same type of player. I compared Trey Lance to like a Dak Prescott, a Cam Newton type of quarterback, because with the rushing production and the athleticism, the arm talent, he has that kind of ability that Cam had when he was coming out of Auburn. So you mentioned the RPOs, 87 combined quarterback runs on draws, powers, and QB designs. Last season was second only to the Baltimore Ravens, were the New England Patriots. So I think when you go out and see what they did this offseason, they signed 2 tight ends, right? They were going after a guy like Leonard Fournette. I think they're building this team to run the ball. And Trey Lance, to me, makes a lot of sense as your rushing threat at the quarterback position, as does Justin Fields if the San Francisco 49ers don't take him. So I think Trey Lance was definitely the most productive runner out of the entire QB class, and he makes a lot of sense behind Cam, especially with those signings, as I mentioned. They're looking to be a running team, and because you have Cam Newton in place, you have the luxury of letting a more raw developmental quarterback sit for half the season to the full season behind Cam Newton and really unleash him in year 2 or whatever. So I think Trey Lance, man, I seriously, this is the one I feel most confident about. If I were to say like someone's trading up for Trey Lance, I think it's New England. Not Denver, because I think New England recognizes that they need a younger quarterback, and I don't think they believe in Cam Newton enough to be able to just like forego that kind of situation. If Detroit's on the board at 7, right? Detroit's looking for draft capital. They're a rebuilding team. What's stopping Trey Lance New England from coming up and getting Trey Lance, securing him ahead of Carolina and Denver?
Yeah, I could definitely see that again. When I'm looking at New England, these were really the 2 main fits here, because Trey Lance is basically an upgraded version, in my opinion, of what they have now with Cam Newton. And Mac Jones would be Bill Belichick trying to relive the days that he spent 19 years with Tom Brady in terms of what they kind of bring to the table. So I think these are the 2 most likely scenarios if they were to deal up.
A chance to get to the Patriots too. If the Patriots want to come up all the way to 4 with Atlanta or something and try and come get Fields, that wouldn't shock me either, because I've seen Patriots beat reporters and Patriots media and stuff tweet out like eye emojis, like looking and stuff. Like I seriously think they're going somewhere. They're going to go up or something, because there's just too much smoke with the Patriots trying to get a quarterback that they're just going to like settle for like Micah Parsons at 15. Like I just don't think that's going to happen.
No, I agree. They're definitely making a move for quarterback. It just kind of depends on which one of the 5, if you will, follows the furthest. Because I think their plan now, Denver may very well sit at 9. They could also move up, so we can kind of see what happens there. If you're Miami and you're at 6, and you know that there's a potential for New England to potentially jump at 7, just trade that pick to the Denver, so you don't have to face Trey Lance for the next 15 years, honestly. But anyways, with that being said, let's move on to the Washington football team as an order here. And I have an idea I have the thought that we may or may not have the same guy here. Who do you have?
I have Davis Mills here. So yeah. So with Davis Mills, he has limited starting experience. If you don't know who Davis Mills is, he's the quarterback from Stanford. But he is widely considered, according to Peter Schrager on NFL Network. I heard him say this on Good Morning Football the other day. People are saying he's widely considered to be the QB6 in this class. And
Makes sense.
with Washington's second rounder, I think that's the type of area of the draft you're looking at for Davis Mills. They could add a quarterback who was once a very highly decorated recruit coming out of high school, but just didn't see the field much in his collegiate career. Sit him behind Ryan Fitzpatrick. We know Ryan Fitzpatrick's a capable quarterback, and he can help you compete this season. And reassess Davis Mills' development after the season, right? If he's not developing, you could always go look for a quarterback in the 2022 draft or something like that. Maybe roll with Fitz another year. But on the upside, right, you have a starting option for you late in the 2021 season next year if Fitz gets injured or you want to just see what you have in Davis Mills, or you roll him out as your full-time starter in 2022 if you really like his development. So he's a guy that I seriously do think is going on day 2. I seriously think is going to go to one of these teams that we're about to mention that is looking maybe for a young quarterback behind an older quarterback or maybe competition for their current quarterback. So Davis Mills to the Washington football team is a match that I really like. I think Fitzpatrick and him kind of have a similar game, and Fitzpatrick has shown propensity to mentor young quarterbacks in the past too.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I have the exact same spot here. I mean, you basically mentioned it. Outside of the top 5 guys, the NFL media has honestly been saying that Davis Mills is that 6. You're mentioning a guy with a huge arm, adequate pocket mobility. He really gives Ron Rivera an ideal young option to let develop behind a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick for year 1. By landing in Washington, Mills really has the ideal spot to take that redshirt year 1. I mean, you mentioned the lack of starting experience. A year just to sit behind a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, continue to learn the NFL, continue to learn the offense would be beneficial for him. And I think he can really develop into a very serviceable pocket passer for Washington. And that's really all they need to contend in the NFC East. Because you're mentioning this roster, the only real downfall of them in 2020 was the quarterback play. If they can get a guy like Davis Mills to really be that distributor for this offense, if he can develop into, let's just say hypothetically, what Kirk Cousins type was for this offense, that's a win if you're taking him in round 2 and have this amount of quarterback support on the roster. So yes, I have Davis Mills to Washington too. And I think honestly, if he's there at 51, he is the pick.
Yep. Yeah. And I think he actually does have some upside, as I mentioned. He's a highly decorated recruit. He's got physical tools. He's not just like,
good arm, good pocket,
or like Jake Fromm or something. Like he actually does have physical tools. Yeah. So he does have some upside to develop into more than just a distributor, in my opinion. But yeah, Kirk Cousins, like kind of similar situation, same football team, obviously. Yeah. But let's move on to the next team we got here. We have the Chicago Bears. And again, I think we have the same guy. We didn't plan this, but I have Kellen Mond, quarterback from Texas A&M. You have Kellen Mond, quarterback from Texas A&M. I think it's a similar situation with what you would have it with Mills in Washington. But the reason I like Mond more to Chicago and Mills more to Washington is because Mond has much more starting experience than Davis Mills had, which makes him a better fit in Chicago. Because with Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think we would both agree Ryan Fitzpatrick is a significantly better quarterback than Andy Dalton at this point. At this point,
yes.
And I think Andy Dalton's completely washed. So whoever the Bears draft in the second round, if they do, or the third round, I think they will probably see some starting action this season to save whoever's job, Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, whoever's trying to save their job will probably see some starting action as a rookie. And I think Kellen Mond, I think he has like 40-something career starts, is definitely more apt to do that than a guy like Davis Mills, who's only started like 10 games in his career.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Again, Kellen Mond, though, it's weird because Davis Mills to me seems like more of the safer, sturdier, you kind of know what you're going to get type quarterback. Kellen Mond is like the exact opposite of that. You plug in one game of tape, and this guy looks like a top 20 type pick. Like he's just he's mobile, big arm. He can stretch the field. Like he looks really good. And then you put on the next game, and he looks borderline undraftable. That is the Kellen Mond experience. It's just so wild because if you just wish he could just put it all together and do it over the course of the season, but that just didn't really end up happening in his collegiate career. Given the state of the Bears roster, it's very weird right now. They are a very weird team because they're in quarterback purgatory with less than ideal draft capital, with a sort of kind of decent roster. Like, I don't even know what to make of them. They're just kind of, I don't know. But with Kellen Mond, as weird as the Bears are, he is the weirdest quarterback in this entire class in terms of you don't know where you're going to get. And I can just see the Bears just absolutely falling in love with this guy, whether it's at pick 20, whether it's at pick whatever they are in the second round. I can just see him being that Bears type option. Heck, they fell in love with freaking Mitch Trubisky, for Christ's sake. It could always happen. And maybe they watched the 3 or 4 games where Kellen Mond was on, and they just think, oh, you know what? This guy's a top 5 quarterback in this class. We're going to take him at 20. that could very well be in this. Like, I would not be shocked if this happened. I know I'm kind of rambling on with a bunch of what ifs, but Kellen Mond to me is just wearing a Bear jersey on draft night. I just can't see him in any other jersey, honestly.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. So the last couple landing spots that we have for quarterbacks, you could probably imagine we kind of ran out of quarterbacks, prospects in this draft that we think are any good. So we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, and the New Orleans Saints as potential quarterback teams. I'm just going to run through mine real quick. You can run through yours right after that. Yep. With the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have them just sticking with Dwayne Haskins as their backup or Mason Rudolph as their backup. And then maybe they look for their quarterback in 2022 if Big Ben hangs it up or something like that. Maybe they get to see Dwayne Haskins in action at some point in the season. I don't think anybody on their roster is their quarterback in 2022 personally, because I don't think Dwayne Haskins or Mason Rudolph are the answer. And Carolina Panthers, I think they're going to stick with Sam Darnold for this season. They're probably going to move Teddy Bridgewater at some point. I don't think they're going to make it like a competition or anything. I think they're just going to give Darnold the job. And then if he falls flat on his face this season, he's got nobody to blame but himself, because it's a great situation that he's in. And then you're looking for a quarterback in 2022, 2023 maybe. Atlanta Falcons, you roll with Matt Ryan for another year or two. Obviously, if you're not taking Trey Lance or Justin Fields or whoever's there at 4, you're probably just sticking with Matt Ryan. And then the New Orleans Saints, just the 2 guys you have on your roster, let them duke it out, and they're probably your quarterback this year and probably going forward, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree for the most part. Carolina and Atlanta in particular, I said, 2022 draft makes the most sense for them. I actually had a couple just random mid-round type quarterback prospects going to the Steelers and the Saints. So to start off with the Steelers, I actually had Jamie Newman going here. And the reason why I kind of looking at it is their quarterback core right now. You mentioned Dwayne Haskins, universal bust from Washington. I don't even know if he's going to be on their active roster come NFL season time. Big Ben is absolutely cooked. Mason Rudolph has absolute cement feet with no real arm strength to really combat that. And Devlin Hodges is better at calling ducks than he is at playing professional quarterback, in all honesty. Why not just take a chance on a guy like Jamie Newman, who has the ideal prototypical size, 6'4", 235. He has the athleticism, nearly 600 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns in his last collegiate season. And he has the ability to stretch the field, 11.1 ADOT in 2019. I honestly think he's a cheap potential deep element that the Steelers don't really have with Big Ben's arm obviously not being what it once was. Giving the Steelers a jolt of youth, excitement in a division really full of young, talented quarterbacks. You mentioned Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, and Lamar Jackson. And if you can get Newman in like the 4th round while still having a win now type mentality, you can take your running back, tackle, whatever in the first 3 rounds. I think this is just a cheap dart throw that you can take. And if you're the Steelers, doesn't really cost you a lot to worry about, because Jamie Newman can fall flat on his face. Guess what? You lost a 4th round pick. But if Jamie Newman lives up to his physical abilities, you could be getting that 4th round steal that every NFL team types covets. So he's got a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. He's not ready made to start in the NFL whatsoever, but I definitely think he's worth that type of capital. And I'll just mention quickly with the Saints, apparently they're interested in Kyle Trask, so I just kind of had him going here. I don't know. You want to take this guy on fucking round 3, round 4? I don't know. I personally see no real upside with him. I see Mason Rudolph 2.0 with cement feet and average arm strength. But hey, if the Saints like him, I don't think Butch is going to be too upset with that either.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be upset with that. With Jamie Newman, there's a world where that guy turned into Zach Wilson, right? Like what Zach Wilson did this year, there was a world with Jamie Newman transferring to Georgia that he could have snapped off this year, right? But he didn't play at all, I don't think, right? I think he didn't. He opted out of the season entirely. So there was a world where him transferring from Wake Forest and ending up at Georgia resulted in him putting himself into the 1st round conversation and playing out of his mind for a great school. So that was a possibility, and maybe NFL teams see that upside with him that they saw at Wake Forest and were like a little upset that he didn't obviously get to play at Georgia. But yeah, he definitely has some upside. He's a guy that I think goes a big time under the radar, especially behind the Davis Mills and Kellen Mond and the Kyle Trask, which are universally considered the 2nd tier of quarterbacks in this class, I would say. So yeah, keep an eye on Jamie Newman where he goes, because he could be he could be like a Jacob Eason type prospect that we're just not talking about enough. So if you guys enjoyed that, make sure you guys like the video. As I mentioned, comment any of your thoughts down below, any of your favorite QB fits that you like, any quarterback related questions or any dynasty questions at all. We'll be happy to answer those. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Hit the bell icon if you want to receive notifications anytime we post a video, anytime we go live. We will be live for all 3 days of the NFL draft, so make sure you're tuned in for that. And stay tuned for the running back video and the pass catchers video, who we will have a special guest on for. So make sure you guys are definitely paying attention to everything we got coming up.
yeah, with that being said, peace out, y'all.
Why you